Hello, my name's Matt, coming to you from the McWaters Effect. And I've been off of YouTube for a week because of strikes on my channel. I got a warning, then I got a strike, so I was off for a week. Sorry about that, guys, but it is what it is. And hopefully I won't get another strike. But just to let y'all guys know, I went to the Trump rally, and I got some footage, and I'd like to show you guys. And first footage I'm going to show you is Jim Jordan's speech. It's about 10 minutes long, maybe a little bit longer, and I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Peace.
You can sit down. The sooner you sit down, the quicker we can get to the president, right? Which is what we want. In 5 months, think about this. In 5 months, with the Democrats in control of the federal government, we have went from a secure border to chaos. We went from energy independence to gas lines. We went from peace in the Middle East to rockets being fired on our best friend and ally, the state of Israel. Not to mention what else they're trying to do, raise your taxes. We were viewed by when President Trump was in office, we were respected around the globe. Now we see what happened. You saw what happened when Secretary Blinken was up in Alaska with his Chinese counterpart at that meeting. I mean, what a contrast between what we see now from the Biden administration and when President Trump was our president. What a contrast. President Trump did more of what he said he would do than any president in my lifetime. I tell folks all the time, we make this job way too complicated. What did you tell the voters you were going to do? Go do that. If they elect you, they put confidence in you, send you to go to Congress, whatever office you're running for. Do what you said you would do. President Trump did it. And that's why we so appreciate him. He said he would cut taxes, he did. He said he'd reduce regulations, he did. He said he'd have the greatest economy in history, we did. Lowest unemployment. Said he put conservatives on the court and did. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Tony Barrett. Unbelievable. Everything he said, told us he would do, he did it. Right? Get out of the Iran deal, we did. Said he'd put the embassy in Jerusalem, we did. Said he'd bring hostages home from North Korea, he did. And on it goes. What a contrast. And that's why you're all here. That's why you're all here, because you want him to run again in 2024. No one has proven that he can stand up to the swamp and do what he said like President Trump did. Unbelievable. That's why we all want him to run in 2024 and be president again on January 20th, 2025. So thank you. Thank you for fighting a good fight. Thank you for being involved. It is so important today that people who love this country, the Constitution, the values, the principles, the institutions that make us the greatest nation ever, it's so important you stay involved. I mean, the left has lost their mind. They're crazy. And the policies they're pushing. There was 1 week, a couple months ago, in 1 week time, the week started off with Congresswoman Tlaib saying we should get rid of police. Not just be fun, get rid of police. It's crazy. The week ended, if you remember this week, the week ended with the trial judge in Minneapolis admonishing Maxine Waters for the ridiculous things she said while the jury was deliberating. And in between those two events, the Democrats in the House passed legislation to make D.C. a state so they could get 2 new U.S. senators. And the very next day, they introduced legislation to put 4 new associate justices on the Supreme Court, to pack the court. All in 6 days. That doesn't underscore how crazy the left has become and why it's so important we stay engaged and help President Trump get back in the White House. I don't know what does. So thank you. The biggest concern I have, and I'll finish here, the biggest concern I have is what has happened to our liberties over the past several years. Stop and think about it. Every single right we enjoy as Americans under the First Amendment has been assaulted. Every single one. You got 5 liberties on the First Amendment. Your right to practice your faith, your right to assemble, your right to petition the government, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Every single one's been attacked. There are still places in the country today where a full congregation can't meet on Sunday morning. Your right to assemble. I gave a speech 6 weeks ago to the New Mexico Republican Party in Amarillo, Texas, because they had to go to Texas to get freedom to assemble. In their own state, they weren't allowed to meet. That should never happen in this great country. Your right to petition your government, so am I. That's why we got to keep fighting. Your right to petition your government. Tonight, as we sit here and talk, you can't go to your capital to petition your member of Congress to redress your grievances because Nancy Pelosi won't let you in. And freedom of the press, you know. Lock her up! 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 Now you saw where, speaking of the press, you saw where Vice President Harris finally went to the board, right? Yeah. She was smiling. That's because President Trump's going there next week. Of course, she had to go. But think about this: the president wouldn't go to the border. Vice President wouldn't go to the border until just this past week. When Secretary Mayorkas went to the border, he wouldn't let the press in the very facilities he was touring. Think about that. You would think the folks back here would be all fired up about that. They're supposed to be. And then finally, freedom of speech. And I tell folks all the time, this is the most important right we enjoy as Americans. Can you really practice your faith? Do you really have freedom of religion if you can't speak? Can you really assemble and petition your government if you can't speak? This is so fundamental. It wasn't so serious to be humorous, but you remember a few months ago, Governor DeSantis put together a roundtable with some doctors talking about the virus and the issue there. And one of the doctors was Dr. Bhattacharya from Stanford. And of course, he put the roundtable, they filmed it and they put it on YouTube, and YouTube took it down. And I'm like, took it down? It's like a doctor. He's a doctor for Stanford, for goodness sake. I told one group, I said, Stanford, I said, not the Big Ten, but it's pretty good, right? Yeah. I mean, come on. So the attacks on speech are the scariest of all. So, again, thank you for being in the fight. I learned a long time ago, good things don't just happen. You want to accomplish anything that matters, anything of significance, anything of lasting value, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes a willingness to get in the fight and assume the risk associated with trying to do something worthwhile. It's tough. You're going to get attacked if you stand up for the values that I think make our country special. So thank you for doing it. And never forget this, and I'll finish with this story. I said that a couple of times, but I mean it this time. This happened to my wife and I, Polly and I, a few years ago. We live near Urbana. We have some good friends in the Dayton area, and they invited us to come down to dinner, summertime of year. And they said, we're going to go to dinner. I said, sure, we're free. We can do that. They said, but before we go to dinner, we're going to tour the Wright brothers' home. We said, great. We like history and learning about buildings and these amazing individuals, these amazing Americans, amazing Ohioans. So we said, sure. So we go down and you pay the lady at the door with the Historical Society, and they take you on a tour of this home where these two amazing Americans lived and grew up and did their things. And you learn all kinds of neat things about these guys. You know, the bicycle shop, the things they built, the things they tinkered with and did. And it's a great tour. But on the last room, it's one of the brothers' bedrooms. One of the brothers, they tell you a few more things about this particular Wright brother. And then they finish by showing you two pictures. First picture they hold up, that first flight, 1903, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, in this thing they call a plane. And you look at it, and your first thought is, wow, how'd that thing ever get off the ground? You know? And the truth is, it barely did. Flew like 120 feet, got about 6-8 feet off the ground. And they show you that picture, and you're like, well, you know, I remember that. when they teach you that in school, 7th, 8th grade, whenever you learn. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. They put it down, and then they hold up a second picture. 1947, Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier. And then I said, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know when they taught that at school. Maybe I wasn't paying attention that day or whatever. I didn't know that. And they put it down, and literally, that was the end of the tour. And Polly and I start walking out that room, and as I'm walking out, it hits me. Wait a minute. Why'd they stop there? I represent Wapakoneta, Ohio, hometown of Neil Armstrong. Think about it. 22 years later, after Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier, Neil Armstrong steps on the moon. In 66 years, we went from 2 guys flying 100 feet in this thing they call a plane to a man stepping on the moon. And in between, another American breaks the sound barrier and another Ohioan orbits the Earth. All in one lifetime. Don't ever let the left or anyone tell you this is not the greatest nation in history, and it is worth fighting for